Hello and welcome to a brand new podcast. My name is Liam Donnelly, he is Harry Guilfoyle, and this is Non-Stop Football. So first of all, we're going to start talking about Pep Guardiola versus Jurgen Klopp and their history on how they've been two dominant managers, juggernauts across the English football over the past few years. So I'll start first. Pep has changed the way football is played across the whole of the UK, not just in the Premier League, but non-league, youth level, and Klopp hasn't done that.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. He's definitely reinvented the wheel when it comes to style of play. However, my argument on this, and it always will be, put Pep in charge of Liverpool when Klopp took over, and he would never have achieved anything close to what Klopp has achieved. Liverpool, when Klopp took over, had Kolo Touré, Lucas Leiva, Lovren, Jovanovic was still there, I think, and all these players that you've never heard of. Divock Origi made him a Champions League winner. I just don't think Pep is capable of doing that.
Well, I mean, Pep has 16 trophies and still counting. Potentially could have 18 come the end of the season, and Klopp's finished with 8 or 9.
Yeah, but again, he's got an open checkbook. You got Guardiola, there's £95 million, and he's just got all the time in the world to settle in. He's in some great form now, but in August through to Christmas, terrible player.
But
same with Jack Grealish, same with Doku, Matthias Nunes. Does he even play for City anymore? These are players that you've just thrown money at because you can. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you've established yourself as a club now where the revenue that you generate is that massive that you can afford to do that. But put Pep in a situation where he doesn't have those facilities, and I don't think he'd be as successful as he has been.
I mean, right, that's fair enough, because you can argue that Bayern, he had money, Barcelona, he had money, City, he has, let's say, an open checkbook. But I just think if he took a team of players, for example, if he was the England national coach or something, we would end up winning the trophy.
Oh, I'd love to see him in international match. I'd love to see him as England boss, absolutely.
Because it's just the style of play. Once the players know how to play that way, I think, they can do it.
Jack Grealish is a prime example. First season, he was pretty non-existent, and once he learnt the system, he was pretty effective, from that point onwards. I just don't know. I mean, it's kind of unfair from my point of view, because he got the opportunity at Barcelona. He must have proved to someone somewhere that he was obviously good at managing at some point. So you can't just say he's always been at a made team, even though that is true. But he has never really had the struggles. I mean, I think he went 11 or 12 years without winning a Champions League trophy from Barcelona to City, which I think is, I'd say that's a failure, in my opinion.
I mean, it's not always about the Champions League, though. That's the thing. It's very difficult to win the Champions League. Once you've won it, I mean, obviously Madrid are the best team in that to win, but it is very difficult. And Klopp isn't even in the same postcode as Pep.
That is bold. I couldn't disagree higher on that one. I don't know. I think they're two very different. But I think they're almost like Messi and Ronaldo-esque in terms of they pushed each other on, especially over the past 9 years has Klopp been in the Premier League now. So I think if Pep didn't have Klopp, I don't think he would have been as good as what he is. I think Klopp pushed him all the way on multiple occasions. I mean, the season you got 99 points, we got 98, and I mean, it's 93 and 92. It's just crazy numbers that have never been seen before. Probably never will be. I mean, even look at this year, Arsenal or City will win the league, but they're going to win it on, less than 90 points, which is...
I mean, obviously, their head-to-head in the Premier League is, it's quite even.
Pretty even. I think Pep's won one more, I think.
The Klopp has won one more. Klopp wins 12, Pep's won 8, and they've drawn... Klopp has won 12, Pep has won 11, and they've drawn 8. Right, okay. But some of those draws have been good, and some, most of those draws are when the title was...
Well, yeah, I don't think if a couple of those draws went in Liverpool's favour, then we would have won 2 more titles.
Yeah, but you didn't.
Oh, no, you didn't.
And that's it. So, next, let's talk about VAR, which is, For me, it's shocking, woeful, and just completely wrong.
Yes.
There's different decisions made differently and wrongly each week.
Yeah, and do you know what the issue is? They have this prerogative of clear and obvious error, and I think that's where most of the issues are, because they don't want to re-referee the game, as Howard Webb puts it, but they also aren't correcting decisions that are wrong because they don't want to undermine the on-field referee, when in reality, I think what's happening is on-field referees aren't making decisions because they're relying on VAR to correct them if they got it wrong. And I'll cite Doku against McAllister for City Liverpool. Any day of the week, that is a penalty. I don't care what anyone says. And if he gives it, VAR aren't overturning it. But I think he doesn't give it because it's the last seconds of the game and he doesn't want to be in all the headlines and everyone saying, oh, Michael Oliver gave a penalty and all that. And I think he was relying on VAR to take that pressure away from him. It just doesn't work. It just plain and simple does not work at the moment.
I mean, that decision, he definitely bottled that. And there was the decision in the FA Cup semi-final, City-Chelsea,
Oh, the
Jack Grealish handball.
Yeah.
And I'm a City fan, but how that was not handball or given is like...
But you know what though? I think
going on?
You need to look at it away from your club. And Liverpool probably have benefited from a VAR decision that I can't think off the top of my head this season. But I would rather watch a footy game and not ever discuss the refs. Or if we do discuss the refs, it's because the referee on field hasn't got 50 cameras and 4 people watching slow-mo replays for 6 minutes and he's just made a decision as fast as he can and got it wrong. I can live with that. But when they've got what they've got no excuse, and it is boring. It is, but it's tiresome to watch it because you just know, like City Tottenham tonight, biggest game of the season, VAR will spoil it. I'm 90% sure something will happen related to VAR. I hope it doesn't. I hope it's just a good game of football and someone wins fairly. I just don't want to sit here tomorrow and say, oh, what a surprise, you know.
Well, VAR spoiled the most amazing and the best game I've ever been to in my life. The
Tottenham,
worst and the best
Tottenham
game.
City, the Champions League.
The Champions League. It was horrible. So that's when I knew VAR was going to be...
At least that was a correct decision, though, because it was an offside. I can live with the offsides because they're quite... It's plain and simple, it's offside or it's not.
Yeah, but there was a dodgy decision before that for
Llorente's goal.
Yeah, but I think it would help if fans could actually hear constantly what's going on in their head. You know, what's going on, how they make the decisions and stuff. And then fans wouldn't be like, oh, it's a, you know, like, oh, he's a Luton fan, he's done that on purpose.
Yeah, that was controversial.
That wouldn't happen if that was...
Isn't there talk of them now... next season announcing on the stage, like to the stadium,
but supposedly
the conversations,
because that's what they did in the Women's World Cup, or
and it worked really well.
And it did work.
That, yeah.
But I mean, that could again cause problems within the stadium.
I think you know that's a bit of a catch-22 because someone good saying it's good to know what's going on, but what if you thinking, what the hell are they saying? Tottenham Liverpool, when Diaz's goal was disallowed, the audio released after that, they literally said, good process, boys, well done. Like, that is
and then they realised they made a mistake, and that is...
it is unbelievable.
Shocking.
It's criminal.
And I don't understand why they didn't go back for that goal, in my opinion.
You know what, I'm so glad we're out of the title race, because if we would have lost the title by a point or two, I would have been furious.
But then maybe they need to get players involved with them who aren't, for example, not Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, but like the ones that just retired, or even, you know, that's not older ones like Paul Merson or something, getting to do Nottingham Forest Burnley or Nottingham Forest Brent.
I get that, but my argument is whether as fans or players we like to think it, we don't know the ins and outs of every single law of the game. And also, I'm pretty sure referees go on courses like every 2 to 4 weeks where they, you know, go through what they all... I mean, every decision effectively is subjective, but they do this thing, courses together, to ensure that they're all on the same page. And if you wanted to implement that, what you just said, you'd have to send a group of ex-players. And also, you know, ex-Premier League players, they will have affiliations, even if they don't say it out loud. You know, Paul Merson is an ex-Arsenal player. He might have had a game one day against, I don't know, some random Aston Villa, no, he played for Aston Villa, some random Prem team where he was abused by the fans or something and it stuck with him and he really didn't like it, so he might not be able to give subjective decisions fairly. You might not be able to remain impartial.
But then, obviously, talking about that, there's referees which you look at, and for example, Anthony Taylor, he's from Altrincham, apparently.
Yeah,
he has to support either City or United.
Yeah, there must be some kind of affiliation. There must be, because just naturally, he's a referee, so he must like football. He's grown up around Manchester area, must have family members associated with either club or both clubs. Whether or not he admits it, obviously he's not going to come out and say, yeah, I'm a Manchester City fan, yeah, I'm a Man United fan. But it's just so hard to believe that someone in that scenario and that upbringing and whatnot doesn't have some kind of preference to one or the other, or even both.
But then, for example, last week when Stuart Atwell was the referee VAR for Everton Forest, and he's a Luton fan, apparently that's correct, that's a fact, everyone knows that.
Crazy.
That should not happen either.
Absolutely not. You should not referee in the same league.
Because that is two teams which are, right, in effect, Everton were still fighting to get, stay in the league by then, they're safe now. But that could have, done a big whirlwind on that game.
Yeah. And you enter a whole world of trouble then, because Forest could have rights to take Atwell to court and say, well, we got relegated because a Luton fan officiated a game, gave a dodgy decision, gave 3 very dodgy decisions with the handballs and fouls. And you owe us, however much money you get for staying in the Premier League, because as a result, we've been relegated. So yeah, I don't know. I've got no time for it in its current format. I'm looking forward to the semi-automatic offsides being implemented that are currently used in the Champions League. But the actual subjectiveness of the game, just leave it to the person on the pitch, in my opinion. That's
what many managers have said. Gary O'Neill has come out and said it, that it's not, the game isn't refed at the game anymore, it's refed in a studio. Yeah. And Jose Mourinho said it as well a long time ago. I remember him saying it's refed in a box. Yeah. And he's right, because it is. Because they know if they make a mistake on the pitch, it's alright, because the mates at the hub will sort it out.
Have you seen that footage of Mike Dean saying, when he was a VAR ref a few years ago, he would purposely not send his mates, as he described them, to the monitor to re-review decisions, because he didn't want them to be under pressure and stuff.
I heard that.
That is borderline corruption, in my opinion, because you are actively not giving decisions that affect all the teams because you don't want your friend, and they shouldn't be friends. No. They're co-workers, they're colleagues, they should do their job, and you are effectively damaging the integrity of the league because you don't want your friend to be under pressure, which I think is just ridiculous.
I mean, they should maybe do what they've done in Sweden. I think it's Sweden, and just get rid of it.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was I think it was Sweden. They voted against it, didn't they? Yeah, and I would love that.
But then you look back at all the decisions. I mean, you look back at big games that have happened, throughout the years of the Premier League. For example, the other day it was the Aguero moment.
Oh, yeah.
You don't, something could have been ruled out in that game. And then you look back and go, actually, we won't have big moments and memories like that.
It spoils it. It's like you just referenced the City-Tottenham game. I bet you were going mental when, was it Aguero or Sterling scores?
Sterling scored,
and Aguero was offside. And you have that moment taken away from you. Like Coventry Man United, for example. In the FA Cup semi-final a few weeks ago, Coventry come back from 3-0 down. They think they scored a winner in the final seconds. Everyone's jumping up and down for like a solid 2 minutes, and then that moment's just ripped away from you. And I think that's really killing the excitement of football. Like every time there's a goal, there seems to be something, and it's like they're trying to find a reason to just disallow a goal, and I just don't like it. I would rather just have a man on the pitch or a woman who just says, I think that's a foul, I think that's a red card, and if you think I'm wrong, whatever, don't care, because it happens, people get things wrong.
But we're speaking about VAR, but maybe it's the rules that are ridiculous. Like the handball rule is ridiculous.
Yeah,
the offside rule is ridiculous. You can be offside by
I've got no time for that. I think that needs to be, like, the lines probably need to be a bit thicker or something to counter
it. Just needs to be blatant. If your whole foot or leg is offside, you're offside.
Like
if your hand, little fingers offside,
you're not getting an advantage at that point.
No, it's ridiculous. So that was VAR. We had a little bit of a rant there. As you can tell, we both hate VAR with a passion. Yeah, talking about another passion of both of mine and Harry's now, though, Congleton Town.
Absolutely.
They won the cup double. Well, they won the Midland League and another trophy this season. and Richard Duffy and Anthony Griff are working wonders down at the Cleric Stadium, which is literally 10 seconds over there from my house. So yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's great, and I think you've been going slightly longer than I have. I've been going for about 3 or 4 years now, and the crowds, when we started going, sub 100, if you got up to 250, 300, it was like a really, really good day. It was a really high attendance. At that point, we were in the North West Counties League, so there was a lot of away fans there as well. That probably factored into that. And I think the last game against Bewdley, I think we got 1,088, and that's just a massive testament to how far Duffy and Griff and everybody involved in the club has really, really brought it forward. It's great for the town. They had the parade the other day. Unfortunately, either of us couldn't make it, but I saw the pictures, and it's just amazing how it's brought so many people together. And we're now progressing into the highest league, I think, the highest tier we've ever been in, and I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm quite confident looking forward to next season that we're just going to keep pushing further and further forward.
I mean, as you say, it has galvanised the town. Everybody now talks about Congleton Town. They know, the results. They know who'd have played, and it's people that you wouldn't think would follow football, but everybody wants to go and watch a match there because they know how well they're doing, and it is great to see. Like you said, the crowds were 50, 40 when I started going, and now there's over 1,000, and there's a massive bear army following home and away. Yeah. It's and the Northern Premier League West is going to be difficult. It's going to be tough. Yeah. There's going to be games next season where we are going to get battered 4-0. It's going to happen. We can't expect to steamroll our way through again. But you never know. Maybe we will. But
it's a journey, isn't it? And obviously this season's been fantastic because we got sidestepped to the Midlands League. I think anyone who's watched Congleton this year will know that the quality of that league is very low in comparison to the North West Counties League that we were in last season, the season before. So I hope people have kind of rejudged their expectations for what to expect this year, because the quality will be a lot higher compared to what it's been this year. But I'm very confident in Duff. Like the way we play football, it's actually quite well.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's Pep-esque, as I say in the match reports I do.
Yeah, we do. often reference it. But we play out from the back, and it's like there's a real togetherness within the squad. At this level, players come and go all the time because there's not really any contracts like there are in the Premier League, and I think it's kind of an open window where you can sign players throughout the entire season. So the fact that our players stick around for as long as they do, some of those players, they've been there since I've been going there, and I'm sure they've been there for a couple of years before that too. So it's really great that they've built this kind of ethos of like togetherness, and they've built what they've built together, and they're just going to keep hopefully moving on forward.
I mean, obviously last season when Tom Pope left, myself included in this, and lots of other fans were like, oh wow, what's going to happen now? Because obviously he left a massive gap to be filled, and at the start of the season it was a bit slow. We started off really slow, and all the fans were like, oh god, what's going on? Get Popey back quick. But then Brian Barton came in, your mate Max McCarthy came in, and won us the league and put in some great performances. I mean, one sad thing that's come at the end of this current season for Congleton is Dickinson leaving.
Yeah, I said about that. I voted for him for Player of the Season. I thought he had massive impact. He's got a proper winner's mentality. He might not be the most skillful player in the world, but his presence on the pitch, I think, especially for the younger players, your Marcos and that, your George Sankey's coming through, Tom Allen. It's great to have someone like that on the pitch who can kind of take that pressure off the young people's shoulders and kind of take the game by the scruff of the neck, deal with the mental side of the game to let those players kind of play with a little bit of less pressure on the shoulders. I think he'll be missed next year. I think he's going to be assistant manager at Hartlepool, so hopefully for him that works out. I'll be keeping an eye on their scores. Hopefully that goes well for him.
As probably lots of other Congleton fans will.
Yeah, but he was a bit of a fan favourite. He was only here for a year, but he really did have an impression.
Every time he put on the shirt, he gave 100. Well, more than 100%. It's he was a good player.
He was. I'll definitely miss him at left back or centre back.
So now, of course, we have to talk about Manchester United.
Which will be a very fun conversation for us.
and their downfall, which is, it's been shocking.
As
as City fans say, mind the gap, Man United, and the gap is getting bigger and bigger every time we play.
Savage.
The club, to me, and it's not just me that say this, you talk to some United fans who aren't deluded in a way and actually speak facts and the truth, and Gary Neville says it, they're rotten to a core.
Yeah,
it's the whole club. It's not just the players, it's in the actual club itself.
It fascinates me, this, and I'm going to look at this as objectively as I can, because obviously I'm a Liverpool fan and it's dead easy to say, haha, they're rubbish, it's great. The fact of the matter is, fundamentally, the players have got massive issues with it. I don't get it. They go out onto the pitch against Arsenal on Sunday, was it? They didn't play well as such, but they put a shift in, and you could see that they were giving a go. They had a very broken team with injuries. But then you see them against Palace the week before, and they get absolutely battered 4-0. And these players aren't being held accountable by anyone. They're getting paid. I think they've got the highest wage bill, or perhaps Chelsea do, but they've definitely got one of the highest wage bills in the league, and they've got absolutely nothing to show for it. And I've supported Liverpool obviously my whole life, and we were garbage for the majority of my life. But not once did I ever watch my team and think, I don't think they're trying, or I don't really think anyone's really interested in this. I watch Man United and I'm convinced half of them just don't want to be there. I think Mourinho did an interview. He was there in 2016 or 17, wasn't he? So 7 or 8 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. And he said he was trying to sell players that are still at the club now. So who is it? Who's making these decisions, and why can't they have a massive overhaul? Because what they need to do is sell, honestly, 10, 15 players and just start fresh. They might finish 8th for a few years, but they'll finish 8th trying, and they'll be able to do perhaps what Arteta's done with Arsenal and rebuild, the hierarchy, and it kind of filters down then. But it's great to watch, but it's just awful.
But apparently there was rumours, Simon Jordan and Graham Souness were talking about it yesterday on TalkSport, and then I've spoken to a few United fans about it, that there's certain players that apparently that they're supposedly injured, that they don't want to play for the club anymore. And apparently one of those is Rashford. One of those is Bruno Fernandes. But on Rashford, he was good, and then in lockdown when he did that, helping families for food, which is amazing, he just decided to, his career just went down the pan.
Well, no, he had last season anyway, he scored like 30 odd goals.
Yeah, but he wasn't, performing constantly.
But then this year, it's like the biggest drop off you've ever seen in your entire life. And that would wind me up more. Because if you know what he's capable of, why is he not doing it? Like, genuinely, he's getting paid 300 odd grand a week. Why aren't you doing it every week? Bruno Fernandes, to his credit, I'm not a big fan of his. But I do see him, I don't know what you've just said, he might be faking injuries or whatever, but for the majority of the time when I see him play, he does put a shift in, he does run around. Marcus Rashford, the amount of times you just see him walking, throwing his arms on, I'm like, there's people who would die to be in your position. Everyone knows what you're capable of. What are you doing? And if he thinks he's just going to walk into the Euro squad, I think he's in for a big shock. Because, he's got Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, Saka, Anthony Gordon's had a good season, Ollie Watkins, Solanke's had a good season. Obviously, there's your Harry Kane's. Who's he outperforming? None of them.
The thing is, with United, I think they've still got it in their heads, like they did when Fergie was in charge. I play for Manchester United, I'm great. Well, actually, no, you're not great. You're not one of the best teams in the world right now. You're still alright. You're still making lots of profit and high up as in being one of the best teams commercial-wise. But you're not playing the nicest football. Ten Hag said the other day that his football is fantastic and he plays wonderful football. That man is deluded.
I've got a lot of sympathy for Eric Ten Hag, right? Which is funny saying, because obviously I don't like United. But I look at him and I think Jurgen Klopp does this, and Jurgen Klopp does it really well. He says stupid things to the media to deflect attention away from his players. And everyone always says, Klopp's moaning again, Klopp's doing that. And yeah, he is, but he's doing it for a reason. I think Ten Hag's trying to do something similar when he says stuff like, we've played well today, or, I really like what I've seen. I think he's doing that to kind of so people like us say, what's he talking about, rather than saying, Casemiro is one of the worst players I've ever seen. I think it's a bit of a deflection tactic. Don't think he's quite nailed it, but it did work for Klopp. I just feel sorry for him in a sense that these players at United, they've been at that club for some of them. You know, Harry Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford. They've been there when Mourinho and even Van Gaal and that were there. If it didn't work for them, why would it work now? So yeah, I've got a degree of sympathy for him on that one.
I mean, you know, as I say, it's the players. Their transfer, how they work the transfers is also a bit strange. Buying Casemiro, who, you know, when he left Madrid was past it, and now he is officially past it.
On a 5-year deal.
Yeah, I mean,
a 5-year deal.
So, Alan Smith said the other day in the Palace game that it was like he was running in treacle.
Yeah, it did look like that actually.
And then Lee Dixon in the Coventry the semi-final in the FA Cup said that he looked like he was towing a caravan. He is past it. I know they've had like 62 injuries this season.
They have had a lot of injuries.
Which is, then again, you know, I was listening to Alan Pardew on TalkSport on Sunday night, and he said, you've got to look into that. Like, that's not normal.
They've hired Arsenal's former club doctor, and this season obviously it's all gone tits up. What I would say is Liverpool have had loads of injuries, Newcastle have had loads, Brighton have had loads. Yes, 62 is a crazy amount to have, but no. Conor Bradley comes into the Liverpool team and plays the exact same way. I mean, look at the Liverpool team that played against Chelsea in the League Cup final. Like, you know, Klopp's getting performances out of these players. Why is Ten Hag? Doesn't matter how bad you are. You know, Cam Waller, off the top of my head, a young lad, had a good game against Liverpool. But why can't these players all perform for the manager or for the team? Why have they got to? I don't know. I just don't get the attitude from them all.
I mean, they look uninterested,
yeah,
unmotivated,
yeah,
and like uninspired. He doesn't seem to. I mean, it's sad because, like I say, he worked wonders with Ajax.
Yeah,
he's come into the United team, and United fans thought, oh, you know, it's something special. We're going to do really well. Signed a few, Varane, for example, signed a few good players, and they had an all right season. And at the end of the day, they could still end up having an all right season.
Well, if they win the FA Cup, I will be amazed.
They could still win the FA Cup and then get into Europe. So at the end of the day, you know, not from a biased point of view, they could still do well. Hopefully they don't.
Yeah, well, for you as a City fan, yeah, you obviously want to win the FA Cup, but if you just look at it, they've lost, I think, the most amount of games they've ever lost in a season before, and they haven't just lost a few games. Like, you know, Palace 4-0, like, no disrespect to Palace, I mean, they're playing very good football under, is it Glasner? But you don't, United, in what world do United get beat 4-0 by Crystal Palace? And they've been on the end of, they got beat 3-0 at home to Bournemouth. You know, that could have been 4-0, they had a goal wrong we disallowed by VAR. Let's get back onto VAR. It's just not anything that we're accustomed to. Well, we probably are now. This generation of Man United fans probably are used to it, because it's been, 12, 13 years is it since they won the title? Obviously, when we were growing up, they won every week, won every league, but no, they've got some serious issues going on.
But serious issues on the pitch and off the pitch with the leaky roof.
Oh, you see the videos? That is shocking. Awful. You've got to put some investment into that.
Well, as the City song goes, Old Trafford is falling down, and Ten Hag, he's a clown. Thanks for watching us on Non-Stop Football. We'll be back next week.